Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Callin' NFL Roundup for Week 13. My name is Alex Barth, joined as always by Alex Lebowitz, as we take you through a slate of Week 13 games. Second week in a row, and you see this later in the season, Lebowitz. There were some specific games that really stood out, and we'll get to those, but as more and more teams kind of fall out of the race, a lot more games that, frankly, don't need much talking about.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of know what the layout is in the NFL. We know what teams are contenders, what teams aren't. I feel like each of the past 4 weeks, my opening's been somewhat the same. It's like, there are a few games to stick out, a couple games that you look at and you had circled on the calendar, and a game tonight between the Eagles and the Seahawks, which I think everyone's looking forward to. But overall, kind of what you'd expect, some storylines that continue to build, some teams that continue to slide. I think that's a really big theme this week, especially with the Chiefs. And you look at the Broncos. But I think we're seeing more and more the makeup's going to be down the stretch. And I know I can speak for you on this one. We're all looking forward to 2 weeks from now when the Steelers and the Pats finally meet up in Pittsburgh at Heinz Field.
Yeah, that should be a good one, and we're looking forward to that. The Patriots get another win today, 23-3 over the Bills. We will discuss this more tomorrow on the show. You can catch that on the CLNS Media app on their new website, clnsmedia.com. Everybody should check that out. It's finally up. And follow us on Twitter as well, at Callin Podcast. But we'll go quick thoughts on this one because there is a lot to break down. Lebowitz, we'll start with you.
Yeah, the offensive line remains to be a little bit of an issue. The pass rush for the Bills was pretty strong throughout the game, and I feel like Brady has looked less comfortable in general. And sometimes it's not what we're used to seeing. Yes, he evades a lot of the pass rush, but I feel like he's still getting somewhat rattled in the pocket there. Other than that positive note, their defense continues to look really good. Held them to 3 points, and really the past like 10 weeks. They have just been on fire. At least really they've been on fire defensively, and they've really made up for losing a bunch of guys, most importantly, Dante Hightower, Eric Lee, also a big name. So, okay win, kind of what we've seen the past few weeks anyway.
Yeah, my one thought was going to be on the Gronk stuff. We talked about a little off air. I'll get into that more tomorrow because I am very fired up about that. I'm going to talk about the defense. They played well, and people didn't talk a lot about this, but Eric Rowe is back this week. He played a little bit. He played well. And just the timing of him coming back now, they can get him some game reps before that Pittsburgh game and really get him ready for the playoffs. And he can add another dimension to what's been a very impressive defense. So good to see Eric Rowe back on the field. One of my takeaways from the game today. Again, you can catch our full thoughts on the game tomorrow on the Callin Podcast. Subscribe to us on iTunes. You can follow us on Twitter at Callin Podcast to make sure you get that episode. We'll start off with one of the good ones out of the NFC. Minnesota on the road favoring the Vikings. Minnesota, on the road taking on the Falcons. Yeah. Falcons were favored by this one in this one by 4.5. Didn't get that. I think the Vikings are the better team. They proved it. 14-9. Minnesota improves to 10-2. The Falcons 4-7-5. We know Minnesota's an offensive juggernaut. They've been that all year. They proved today they can win a defensive game, and to me, that just adds another level. This is a dangerous team. Again, I have them in my NFC Championship. I think just because Case Keenum's the quarterback, people are ignoring exactly how much of a threat Minnesota is.
Yeah, I mean, they're winning close games, and any team that wins close games consistently, yeah, you have to give them credit for that. I'm still not fully buying into them. They went up against the Falcons, who really have just been really underwhelming this season. You look at Matt Ryan's stat line, no interceptions, but no touchdowns, only 173 yards through the air. And Keenum, yeah, he's continued to play really well. I think they're a top team in the NFC. I don't see them representing the NFC in the Super Bowl. I think they could make a decent run, but I'm still not fully buying into them. I think, you put up 14 points on an okay defense in Atlanta, and they've gotten some big wins. And something about them, I'm not fully going to buy in. I think they are really beatable.
We'll see. They got some big games coming up. In Chicago, the 49ers and the Bears, Jimmy Garoppolo's first start for San Francisco. He leads a late game-winning field goal drive. Niners take this one 15-14. And the only thing I'm thinking with this one is get ready for the hot takes all week coming from all over Boston that Garoppolo had a better game than Brady this week.
Maybe he went up against the Bears. So I don't know. I think he had an all right game. It's good to see him play well. It's not like he has a great offensive line or great weapons to work with. He's a guy, I said this last week, I think he's going to be good. I think he's going to be very good. I'm not going to read too much into this. He had a good late game drive to get them on top. No need in overanalyzing, though.
The Packers at home take down the Buccaneers. It was close. They needed overtime. Pack takes this one 26-20. Packers now 6-6. Bucks fall to 4-8. And supposedly Aaron Rodgers just started practicing. If the Packers win, when the Packers win next week against the Browns, they'll be 7-6, and they'll potentially have Aaron Rodgers for their final 3 games. This is insane. The Packers could make a run. They could finish this thing. They could end up in the playoffs with Aaron Rodgers. It's unbelievable what this team has done, and all the credit in the world to Brett Hundley. He looked shaky at first. He had to figure things out quick, but he had a great game today, and the kid has earned himself at some point down the line a starting spot in the NFL.
Yeah, it's been quite the turnaround for the Packers. You know, when Aaron Rodgers went out, you had a lot of people who were doubting Mike McCarthy, rightfully so. Brett Hundley just wasn't very good. You know, the Kaepernick crowd came out, turned it around a little bit, and they're playing pretty well. Not to say that Hundley's putting up ridiculous numbers, but they're winning games. And if Aaron Rodgers comes back, that's great news for the NFL and bad news for one of the teams we just talked about, the Minnesota Vikings. So I hope it happens. It'd be awesome. It'd be great to see. I'm not holding my breath, but still yet to give credit to this Packers team and Brett Hundley specifically.
I would love to see him come back. They almost beat Pittsburgh last week. Green Bay did with Brett Hundley. So you put Aaron Rodgers in that equation, you think they can beat just about anybody in football. Moving on, AFC South, Titans moved to 8-4, 24-13 over the Texans. Texans are now 4-8, and who would have thought Titans Jaguars is going to be one of the most fun divisional races we have here down the stretch?
Yeah, it is. This is kind of a mad game for me. The only note I have is that what you just mentioned, the fact that it's coming down to the wire between the Jaguars and Titans. I think the Titans have the nod in that one.
They do. They have a 1-game head-to-head. They'll play again later this year.
So that'll be a fun game to watch. Yep. But both of these teams, they're all right. They're kind of doing what we expected them to do and benefiting off of a down year, especially for the Texans. So yeah, that'll be a lot of fun to watch in the final few weeks.
I think off the top of my head, I think that game's week 17. So that could be the Sunday night flex that week. We will see. Mad game of the week, Dolphins, Browns. Dolphins win 35-9 on this.
Yeah, I mean, Dolphins, Broncos. Yeah, Broncos 8 straight losses.
Did I say Browns?
I think you said Browns. Yeah. Browns lost 2, though. We can talk about this. In other news, they still suck. But yeah, Broncos, brutal. There's really not much more you can say about them. It's just been a horrendous year for them.
Two bad teams, but it was interesting. In New York, the Jets take down the Chiefs 38-31, a late comeback. Jets move to 5-7. Chiefs fall to 500, 6-6. Remember, this team was 5-0 at one point. Darrelle Revis, first game on the Chiefs, they made him a captain. He got beat up and down the field by the Jets. It was kind of fun to watch for me. One, watching Revis get his ass kicked, and 2, the Jets pretty much removed themselves from the conversation for a top 5 draft pick. Even if they lose out at this point, I think 5 wins puts them in that 6, 7, 8 spot.
And it's funny because you get a lot of Jets fans who like nothing's bad. Like, oh, we lose, good, we're close to that top draft pick. Oh, we win, this team's good for where they're supposed to be
exactly
at right now.
who you're talking about too.
It's ridiculous, and it's not just one person. I don't want to say it's one person, but it's like no, it's just like they want to get a high draft pick. They suck. With the Chiefs, Alex Smith had a decent day. Like it's not like he played bad. It was just their defense got smoked, and Josh McCown looked like Aaron Rodgers. It was just a brutal game to watch. Like the 180 that Jets fans have turned.
And to watch, they must have enjoyed watching Revis beating up and down. I mean, he was a big reason that the Chiefs lost that game. Jaguars and Colts. Jags take it at home 30-10. Jags are 8-4. Colts fall to 3-9. Jaguars offense looks good. We know what their defense is. And I mean, this team's looking like a bit of a threat. I'm not necessarily saying that they'll knock off a New England or a Pittsburgh, but they'll make it tough.
They're too inconsistent for me to get behind. Like 1 week they beat the Steelers, which they did earlier in the season, and the next week they're losing to, a really crappy. Didn't they lose to the Jets as well? I know that's early in the season, but this team needs to sustain a run and play a solid 4 straight games for me to actually get behind. I just don't see it happening. I'm not really buying into them at all.
Ravens, Lions, Ravens blew Detroit out of the water at home 44-20. Baltimore now 7-5. Detroit falling down to 6-6. They had a good start this year as well, too. The Ravens right now are the 6th seed in the playoffs, and we know what kind of haunts they always bring to Gillette. I'm kind of torn right now between Ravens or Bills for that 6th seed. It's going to be interesting. The Bills really needed a win today to help their cause. They have the head-to-head, but the Ravens are surging late, and it's always scary when they do this.
I mean, I'm not worried at all. I think the Ravens are still are I don't know. Ravens as a team, they're okay. They're above average, I guess, by default. Ray Lewis isn't coming out of that locker room. Ed Reed isn't coming out of that locker room. They have an all right defense. They've played pretty good this year, better than I probably thought they would. But no, neither of them or the Bills are going to pose any type of threat. There's only one team that poses even close to a threat, and I don't even give them that much credit in the AFC, and that's the Steelers. And I still don't think that's much of a challenge for the Patriots, no matter who comes into Gillette.
More on that. Of course, we'll talk about that tomorrow on the Callin podcast. You can follow us on Twitter at Callin podcast. Subscribe on iTunes. Get us on the CLNS Media app to hear about that. Out west, Chargers take down the Browns 19-10. Deshaun Kaiser continues to look outmatched. Maybe that's the plan. But, and I totally forgot about this till I saw the game on Red Zone. Josh Gordon played today, which is awesome. He's one of the best talents in the league. He's been held out of the league for a couple years. And I don't think we really realized he didn't play well, and his best days may be behind him, and we may never get to see what he could have been. But great for him for just getting back on the field.
Yeah, just looking at his numbers right now, 4 receptions, 85 yards, 11 targets. But in all fairness, his quarterback is Deshaun Kaiser.
Kaiser was missing him left and right. They were not on the same page.
So, and that's going to happen. It's great to see a guy like Josh Gordon get back in the league, and you know, political affiliation aside, whatever. If you don't think that NFL players deserve to smoke marijuana over taking painkillers, I don't think you're very, very educated on how awful painkillers can be for you and how addicted they are. So I think the fact that he was out of the league is a shame. Obviously, if you can't give up marijuana for football, you probably have a bit of a problem, but it should never have gotten to that point. Good to see him back. I'm happy for him, and it seems like he, if anything, he grew from that whole, exile from the NFL.
No, really happy to see him back. Out west, Oakland takes down the Giants. The Geno Smith era begins in New York with a loss, 24-17. Raiders are 6-6. Believe it or not, they are tied for first place in the AFC West with the Chargers and the Chiefs. So the AFC West is going to be very interesting. The Raiders, after all this, could end up being a playoff team. And the Giants, now it sounds like McAdoo's going to get fired. What a mess that whole thing is. Both of these teams really just kind of free falling right now.
Sorry, you broke up there for a second.
Raiders kind of a mess. Giants totally a mess.
Yeah, I mean the Raiders are. I think they're even more than kind of a mess. I think if you only beat this Giants team by 3 points, you're a lot of a mess. They just haven't. They took a huge step back with a team that was still young and still growing. You're supposed to get better in this stage with that type of team, not worse. And it's just really disappointing to see with the Giants. Yeah, it's a carnival. It's just a complete circus over there. Be out sooner rather than later. And I tweeted about this earlier. McAdoo being out is inevitable. Him getting fired is inevitable. Eli being replaced is inevitable as well. But the timing of it was just brutal. So to see all of it play out is really a shame for everyone involved.
This was a good one in the NFC South. First place on the line, the Saints and the Panthers in the Superdome. Saints take this one 31-21. That vaunted Panthers defense had a tough day. Alvin Kamara, to me, is the rookie of the year. This kid has been outstanding. When you throw him the ball, you hand it to him. He has been so much fun to watch. He's added a new dynamic to the Saints offense that, while still good, had become a little predictable in the last couple of years. Him and Mark Ingram may be the best 1-2 tandem in the league. It's either them two or another Alabama back, Derrick Henry and DeMarco Murray in Tennessee. But I think this proved, and I forget if we had this conversation on air or off air, Lebowitz, but there's those 5 clear elite teams in the NFC. And I thought the Panthers were the biggest pretender of those 5. I think that was vindicated a bit today. Big win for the Saints, who continue to just roll through any opponent.
Yeah, and you stole my point there. The Panthers and Saints were neck and neck in their division. And I think for anyone who's been watching this season play out, it was clear that the Saints were the better team. They proved it today. Yes, it was a home game, but they got a good win against a team that, at the very least has a good record, has played all right this season. So today we saw both teams kind of solidify a lot of opinions of what they truly are. Will the Panthers sneak into the playoffs? Yes, they should not have been on top of that division with the Saints, and the Saints proved the kind of the consensus opinion.
Another one of those elite NFC teams, the Rams. They beat the Cardinals 32-16. I took a late push. Blaine Gabbert's looking good. The Cardinals still hanging on. Larry Fitzgerald now 4th all-time in receiving yards. The Cardinals are 5-7, but they are going to play some good teams from here on out, and that's not necessarily a team that's going to make the playoffs. But I could see them potentially stopping a team or two from making the playoffs. Very interested in what the Cardinals are doing here down the stretch. Of course, the Rams, though, I still think the Rams are the cream of the crop. I'll take them over the Eagles in the NFC. Drop out again?
Yeah, you did a little bit. It's been in and out. Yeah, the Rams, they're top 3. I don't know if they're going to come out of the NFC. I really like the Eagles. I just like what they've done. I hope that they prove my point today and why I've been so high on them. But yeah, with the Cardinals, yeah, maybe they spoil a few seasons. I don't think they're really a threat to any team. Today, it was back and forth but it's still a 2-score game, so it kind of went as expected.
Maybe Jacksonville last week. All right, you mentioned the Eagles. Huge back-to-back games for them. First off, tonight in Seattle on Sunday Night Football. Next week, they will be in LA to take on the Rams. So we'll start with tonight. I know Seattle's not the team they've been. They're very banged up. Their offensive line is terrible, but the Eagles outside, they played Carolina, which they won at home late. And they played the Chiefs, who at the time were good, and they lost that game. Outside of that, the Eagles have really played nobody. Their schedule has been Swiss cheese. This is a start for them proving it. Like I said, the Seahawks are not the traditional power we've seen them be, but you have to go cross country, primetime game, tough stadium to play in. If the Eagles lose tonight, I mean, that just solidifies my point that they're not the best team in the NFC. I'll be really looking to see what they do tonight and see what Carson Wentz does tonight. This is the toughest game of Carson Wentz's career so far, and that will be supplanted next week, but he needs to show me something tonight. I'm impressed with everything I've seen from him this year, but you got to see what he brings tonight.
Yeah, and I think they could still lose and be the top team and the favorites in the NFC. I don't think a loss to the Seahawks in Seattle, one of the toughest places to play, is going to be a season ender. Depends how they lose, of course, but I think they're going to make it a game. Again, the Seahawks defense has taken a big step back. Go up for a primetime football game. Definitely the biggest test of the season for the Eagles. Again, you mentioned it. You go down their schedule. There's not really much competition that they've played that's staggering. Teams. That's kind of been the argument against the Patriots for pretty much every single season. So I don't know. They've won games. They've been consistent, and Carson Wentz has been consistent. So I'm still big on them, and I think today they'll prove why a lot of people are.
And one more, the Steelers and the Bengals Monday Night Football. We almost saw the Steelers get knocked off by the Packers last week, and I'll tell you, the Steelers play down to their opponent. You can't do that in the division. I'm not necessarily saying I'm picking Cincinnati. I'm not, but this is a trap game for the Steelers. They need to be careful going on the road against a divisional opponent with the Patriots coming up next week.
Yeah, they could absolutely lose this game. But the thing is, even if they do lose this game, that doesn't matter for the Patriots, because if the Patriots lose this upcoming Sunday, 2 seed, because they'll be even, unless the Steelers obviously lose in the last couple of weeks of the season. So it's kind of irrelevant to the Pats game. That's kind of how I'm looking at it. I could still see them losing. I don't think it's going to happen, though. I think the Bengals are just so mediocre that, especially in primetime football games, that this won't really be close. I see the Steelers running away with it.
All right, well, that is it for the NFL Week 13 Roundup. Again, you can catch our full thoughts on the Patriots and the Bills tomorrow on the Callin podcast. You can check that out on Twitter at Callin It Podcast, or on the CLNS Media app as well, and clnsmedia.com. So check us out there. Until then, he's Alex Lebitz. I'm Alex Barth. Thanks for watching the Callin It Week 13 NFL Roundup.